5:01 de la tarde aquí en España, son las 11:01 de la mañana en Nueva York, pasan un minuto de las 10 de la noche en Hong Kong. Hola a todos, bienvenidos a Spanish Wine Academy Somms Edition. Os saludamos desde Aro, desde La Rioja, España. Bienvenidos a esta primera edición de Spanish Wine Academy Somms Edition. Mi nombre es Alberto Saldón, soy el responsable de este proyecto, de la formación a nivel global en el mundo del vino español de Ramón Bilbao, un proyecto que intenta proyectar, compartir y disfrutar de la cultura del vino español en todo el mundo. Y bienvenidos a esta primera edición de Somms Edition, que de verdad es un placer ver la expectación que hemos creado. Permitidme en primer lugar que salude a nuestros amigos
in 2 minutes, we are about 600 professional sommeliers, along with journalists and so master wine, of course, enjoying these presentations, more than 20 different nationalities. And now that we are in Nairobi, you can say that basically this is the Olympics, International Sommelier Olympics, so thank you for being here with us, joining us. And again, this is let me greet international friends. Bienvenidos aquí al Spanish Academy Somms Edition. I'm Alberto Sandón y voy a estar aquí las próximas 2 horas para que disfrutéis, descubráis y compartáis con nosotros todo vuestro universo de sumilleres. Thank you very much for joining us. Una cosa, si estáis viendo nuestro programa a través de nuestra website, en nuestro sitio web podéis encontrar también dos diferentes estados, dos diferentes escenarios, opciones. Así que elegir vuestro idioma, español o inglés. Relajaos, quizás podáis incluso abrir una botella y disfrutar con una copa de vino y de este espectáculo. Bienvenido a todos, por supuesto. Welcome, and if you are watching our program, because this is a global program, you can see at the upper level, at the upper hand on the side, you can choose the 2 languages, which are English and Spanish. You can choose whatever is your language of choice. We're going to be here for 2 hours and a half. Open a bottle of wine. This is the new project Ramón Bilbao, La Bomba, and we are going to enjoy this afternoon of this wonderful bottle of La Rioja Alta. Again, enjoy this program. Really, this program is going to be very appealing and interesting. We are going to talk with the most important, highly acclaimed sommeliers around the world, from the United States, from Moscow, from the Maldives, people that are in Asia, the Maldives, Hong Kong, many people, colleagues from Spain. And we're going to talk about the trends and sommelier universe at global level. Of course, we are going to talk about Janice is going to talk about neuromarketing and neuroscience, how we can actually take advantage of such a science in order to boost, our senses at the restaurant, how we can actually make this restaurant experience something that is related to the neuroscience, sometimes help us to actually boost, some reactions and some senses. When we talk about experiences, there are some sommeliers that are talking about experiences regarding, the wine offer and regarding the service, because gastronomy is very important, as you very well know. But also, let's talk about how we can actually make one experience a single experience. And last but not least, we are going to talk about a person who is going to help us to understand how we can create a list of wine list, either a gastronomic restaurant, either a standard restaurant, an attractive, appealing, balanced wine list with novelties, but it could be a profitable wine list. We're going to talk about with different sommeliers that are, upper echelon, and especially from Spain as well as from and the international scene. So again, we're going to talk about different people. Allow me to talk about the Spanish Wine Academy. This is a Ramón Bilbao project that was launched, implemented back in 2018 at international level in order to talk with the sectorial professional, either, restaurant owners, sommeliers, etc. To talk about the Spanish wine culture. We actually carry out different wine tasting, up to 50, 60 with luxury gases, up to 1680 with Pedro Ballesteros, for example, which is the godfather of our actions, Sebas, Joseph, Baker, sommeliers, for example, Cordero, Ferran, etc. Many people were involved in this project, and now we started to do it in order to share this culture, wine, Spanish wine culture with everybody, because this is something that we want to be. We are eager to do it, So we tasted, friends, competitors, and people surrounded us wines, because as many as we tasted, as much we are able to love it. So
Spanish Wine Academy.
Explain
Bienvenidos.
what is a wine Spanish.
I think people are starting to realize that there's some great stuff being made in Spain, not just in Rioja, Ribera and Priorat, but in new areas, or rediscovered areas, and that fine Spanish wine can come from anywhere.
The level of professionality here is amazing, and I've never been to an event quite like this. A Spanish Wine Academy of this kind is something that's quite unique to me, and I think for them to have 2 days of learning from top people as sommeliers and masters of wine is really impressive.
Bueno, pues como os decíamos,
as
esto es
we
Spanish
were
Wine Academy,
saying,
parte
this is the
de-
Spanish Wine
de-
Academy, and part of the soul of this project belongs to sommeliers, master wines, trainers. I like the disseminators. Ferran, do you like the divulgadores, disseminating people? Good afternoon, Alberto and family. I'm happy to be here with you. Yes, I like the disseminator, or communicators, people who are at the restaurants and wine shops, trying to increase the value of wine, of course, because that's what it is. Sommelier, should be able through their recommendations and information and persuasion, to increase the value of the wine experience. Of course, the value of wine. That's what it is. Sommelier has to work in that way. So I'm very happy to be this sommelier edition. It's such a good idea for the academy to actually hold these type of events, even though we are undergoing a very tough times, but it's something good anyway. We can actually retain the positive aspect, because despite the situation nowadays, we can actually conduct this type of events, hold this type of events. Today we are here with us. We have great sommeliers that are going to explain to us, the current situation, the wine list, the restaurant experience. Great experts are here with us in this field. They are going to talk about from Moscow, from Hong Kong, from the Maurice Islands. So these great speakers are going to be with us. So again, this is the positive aspect, because the thing that we can actually get used to this type of gatherings with the experts. Thank you to Alberto for this summer edition and by Ramón Bilbao. We are very pleased to be here, and we were very happy to organize this. We're able to connect, among everybody. So hopefully, we can actually have a personal experience. We can actually get in touch personally, but we should take advantage anyway of this type of events. Thank you again. Thank you very much for this. Thank you, Ferran, because you are active part. And also the one to blame on, for this type of gathering, and it has, as I said, gastronomy. You actually experience, and the first person when you were working at the Bully, and you're still experience that. Gastronomy is very innovative right now. The sommeliers, and the generally, sommeliers are going to be the next revolution, actually. So we want to share all of this, and hopefully we can share this passion. Behind me there is a library. Can you see that? Where that actually gather all your experience, all your knowledge. Sorry. So these are. This one is also awesome, such awesome. Now that, summer time is coming, you can take with you to the beach, for example. So your dissemination work, your passion and rigor work that you actually carry out is so important. And that's why we call more than 600 people from different designation of designation of origin, sommeliers, friends, colleagues, etc. So all of us, we can actually boost this project. So I leave it up to you. And so if you don't mind, Ferran, let's begin, okay? Yeah, sure.
Let's get started.
Vamos a empezar.
Gracias, Alberto. Buenas tardes, buenos días, buenas noches to all. Yeah, how are you doing?
Hello.
Good. Yeah, so good to see you, my dear friends. Yeah. So thank you all for being here. It's a great pleasure to be able to talk and to kind of do a point of situation about how is this post-COVID era. Let me please, first of all, introduce you all so the audience can get to know you better. And it's great to, honestly, to have you here. Andy Myers, say hello.
Hola.
Andy Myers. He's Andy Myers. He's a dear friend. Yeah, top sommelier, actually, master sommelier. He's the beverage director at the Think Food Group of the renowned chef Jose Andres. And Andy here, he manages more than 20 restaurants, maybe. Well, you even don't know how many restaurants you manage, I guess.
Well, yeah, this past year, a few closed, a few opened, and we're reopening a bunch of things. But let's call it about 20, and we're at a good number.
Okay. Andy's talking from DC. He's a great man, great knowledge. And actually, he's also part of our books at Wikipedia, so thank you for this too. Let me also introduce you to Roberto Duran, the sommelier, the most trendy sommelier in Spain at the moment. We are very old, the Spanish, very proud of you, Roberto. Roberto is the head sommelier at Pall Mall 67. Actually, Pall Mall may be the best wine club, wine bar, wine restaurant in the planet, managing more than 4,400 wines and just 1,200 wines by the glass. So I don't know if you kind of, if we can call you Som, or you are like what, like a manager, or what? I don't know how to introduce you. How are you doing, Roberto?
Good. Quite pretty busy with a new opening in a few months' time. We are opening in Singapore. I'm excited. Probably will be the last 3 months, 4 months in London, and after I hope to see you in Singapore. But pretty good. Preparing the mess. Now it's going in October.
Good.
Second attempt. Let's try to do the best.
Very good, Roberto. You know, here from Spain, we wish you all the best with this MS you are doing. We're really proud of you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Arnau Echalier, former sommelier at Santi Santa Maria, and now director and beverage director also in a very important resort in the Mauritius Island. Arnau, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm glad I can hear you now.
Very cool. Yeah, you know we are a bit jealous about you, eh? There in Mauritius.
No, don't be jealous. You know, it's a very simple life, very down to earth life. You are maybe, I mean, we are lucky, but we are not so lucky 100% because we have been on lockdown for the last 4 months and operating not as much as we want to. So speaking with Mr. Myers here, I'm working for a company that also is going to open one restaurant in Dubai, in Kerzner International, and in Atlantis, the Royal, a big company, I mean, a big new hotel is going to open at the end of the year, and we have one restaurant with José Andrés inside.
Okay, so very cool. Okay,
can't wait to see you there.
You're partners now.
I don't know if you was linking together, but yeah, that's part of the group. So
well, we'll see you in December.
Very cool.
I hope so. Yeah. So
excellent. Yeah.
Thank you,
Arno.
Thank you, Alberto, and thank you, Ferran, for counting on us. That we are far. It's nice to see some colleagues from Hong Kong and from Spain, like Alberto, Marie-Paul.
Very cool.
That I met in Spain, but I don't know Roman. But yeah,
okay.
Nice to meet you, Roman, too.
Excellent. And thank you, Arno. And talking about Hong Kong, let me introduce you, Marie-Paul Herman. She was former sommelier at El Bulli, where we shared like 2 years, maybe 3. Can't remember now.
The last 2 seasons.
Okay, cool. And Marie-Paul, now she's the big master at Group Maximal Concepts. So you've got 6-7 restaurants, 4 in Hong Kong, 1 in Las Vegas, 1 in Singapore. I think 1 even in one new openings also. Next one in Dubai.
In Dubai as well. So I think it's going to be a big reunion over there.
Wow, it's so exciting, guys! You are all doing new openings soon, so it's good to see that it seems everything that it seems to be settling down. New openings, quite good.
It's very exciting, very exciting.
Excellent. It's a late night now there.
It's 11:15, so I just served myself a little glass as well. So.
Very cool. Very cool. Thanks for being here too.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Very cool. And last but not least, Roman Sapsnovsky. He's the president of the Moscow Sommelier Association. He was awarded Best Sommelier in Moscow in 2017, and today he's brand ambassador for Ramón Bilbao. Roman, bienvenido.
Hi to everyone. Greetings from Moscow. It's very nice to be here and to take part in such an interesting experience. So hi.
Okay. I see couple of nice wine boxes at your backboards.
Oh yeah, but they are empty. I'm having a Diet Coke today.
Oh gosh. Excellent. So we have been introducing all the crew. As you see, top professionals, first level professionals, and it's very good to have your opinion and see how are we developing. Let me start also to make some questions, and let me address my first question to Andy. because here in Spain we have kind of the feeling of now that restaurants they start to open and we are recovering our timings and all this stuff. We see kind of the customers being like or asking for more kind of classical wines. So prior to the COVID, it seems like people was kind of more open to taste new things, and at least that's the feeling we've got with many colleagues here in Spain. I don't know if you have been experiencing something like that in the US, especially.
Yeah, actually, it's been kind of interesting. I was talking to a number of retail people in the United States. And brands that they thought were declining rapidly, Kim Crawford, Rombauer, Turning Leaf, things of that nature, suddenly had this huge resurgence during the pandemic with people just, online ordering and doing more retail wine. It was less adventurous and more, I just want what's comfortable. I just want what I know. I need to feel safe and warm again. And as guests are coming back out to the restaurants, and we just went back to 100% occupancy 2 weeks ago, we're seeing a little bit now of people like, hey, we're out. Let's try something new. Let's have an experience again. But yeah, all of our, through the whole pandemic, our to-go wine sales, our retail wine sales, very safe, very comfortable. People were not branching out at all. And yeah, the U.S. in general has seen, again, as I said, brands that people thought were dying, these old dinosaur brands, came roaring back just because people wanted to feel safe again, wanted to feel comfortable, and just didn't want to experiment that much. So I think in the next couple of months, we're going to see again this excitement as people do get out and they spend time with their friends and they spend time in restaurants. But for right now, yeah, very safe, very traditional drinking is what's going on.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Thank you, Roberto. Have you been experiencing something like it? I mean, you have plentiful of wines, 4,000 different labels. I don't know if you have been doing some off-trade sales, and in case, if it's that the case, have you been selling kind of more classical wines?
Normally for us, our biggest selection coming from Bordeaux, coming from Rioja, coming from Burgundy, even coming from Barolo, Barbaresco, the classic area. Normally, always we buy the wine need to be around 20 to 30 years in age in order to our members enjoying with. Normally for as you know, and everyone knows, in the classic English market required, the wine need to be, slightly more aged in style. The customer doesn't like the structure, prefers the acidity, and and this is the thing that here is our members looking for. As well, maybe for us it's different because we are a one-member club. This, normally, they have the culture or they have the way that always they buy the wine, they store their own wine, and before drinking. But normally the average is always very classic style. Especially though now most popular vintage probably we are going for the 90s. Now we have a big selection by the class from 90 to 1999, and in Burgundy we are moving now around from 1995 to 2002. Then our biggest selection by the class. It's the thing that the English market requires.
Well, yeah, but it's not easy to gather this kind of classic vintages and old wines. So that's quite specific from Pall Mall, and that's why you are so great there and doing so much loved in your country. So, Marie-Paul, what about Hong Kong? What about Asia? Any change of behavior in customers? How is that there?
What we can see over here, people, they keep nicely spending here in the restaurants, and obviously like the classic ones like France, Spanish wines, they always stay. But you can see they're still quite adventurous as well. So, for example, we just recently in February opened a Japanese izakaya restaurant, and I got quite a little list of Japanese wines, and like people are open to try it. So it's not only playing safe, they're still open to try new things. And I have to say, most of the Somms here in the city, they're they're trying to push like some new things as well. So glad to see that as well. Obviously, like a nice classic wine is always good, but it's good to see that the guests are still quite adventurous as well.
That's so good to hear. Arnaud, I must confess that I really don't know nothing about your market there in Mauritius. Have you had any problems getting wines in during the pandemics? The supplies, what kind of wines are you selling more now that we are kind of opening?
So yeah, in our case, being in lockdown for a few months, we haven't been really see a shortage of anything. But I can speak about the type of clientele we have here. It's a place that we have guests having a length of stay for about 10 to 15 days. So we are lucky enough to have this kind of customer, which is repeaters. Customers, they have already their own preferences of Bordeaux, Burgundy, Italian wine more than Spanish. Being almost Spanish in a way, I always bring the culture with me and try to always build a nice part of Spanish wine. So saying that, the guests who have very classical flavor, taste, profile, will go to that, will spend quite high-end money into very high levels. But the fact that they are here for longer days, and we can bring them to different opportunity of trying other things outside of their comfortable zone. A little bit like Marie-Paul, we have an Asian place. So in this place, we can play with Riesling, we can play with sake. The guest is really open mind because as they trust your wine list and they trust that you are going to deliver, we have this kind of two speed. They want to drink every day. That's the luck we have. They want to drink lunch and dinner. And they have days that they really want to go full on and go really that they are blind into spending. And they have days they just want to be guided by the sommelier team that we have here. So yeah, they are pretty classical, I will say, but really open mind to try anything from any country.
Okay. That's cool. And going back to this question, you had any problems getting wine? I mean, in terms of trying to buy wines that they did not arrive, or I don't know.
No, I mean it's a 3 months minimum thinking to have the delivery to be done. So we plan ahead. For example, now we know we are going to be full on from October to December. So I'm already starting now to build part of the stocks that we will need for this couple of months or 3 months coming. We just need to think ahead, look at forecasting, look at what is the consumption earlier, and know our customer. So yeah, we have no problem of supply. We just need to be realistic in terms of timing and to bring whatever we want through suppliers. And now we are actually working on trying our own. So we are working into bringing our own selection also now this year.
Very cool. Thank you, Arnaud. Roman, how is the situation in Moscow? Are you selling more classical wine? People is drinking kind of innovative things. How are you living this?
Well, first of all, it's quite complicated to say about the post-COVID trend, because we are now here in Russia, I think, in the beginning of the third wave, and it's a quite complicated situation right now in this moment. We're having every day the number of sick people is increasing, and just like a few hours ago, there was a new law signed by our mayor. That's starting with the 28th of June. All the restaurants and all the cafes in Moscow, they will be 100% COVID-free. It means that you can enter the restaurant only if you have the, let's say, certificate, the QR code that proves that you've been vaccinated or that you have antibodies. And the same thing with the personal. So it's a kind of new trend, for next few months, like the restaurants, not for everybody, but only for those who are COVID-free. But talking about the trends.
And Roland, sorry to interrupt. And how is the vaccination going?
Very bad, to be honest. We have a very good vaccine. It is called Sputnik, and it's quite good. But the problem is that people in Russia, they have, very strange relations with the vaccine, and it's not quite popular. So the percentage of people vaccinated is very, very low. And the government trying to stimulate people in different ways. Sometimes it sounds, it sounds really weird because, for example, you can win in a lottery if you get vaccinated. You can win a car or something like this. So the government is trying to stimulate people in different ways. So, but talking about restaurant, yes, it was like new law just only few hours ago. So in the morning, the situation was absolutely different. But we have two trends. If we're talking about the post-COVID trends or changing the behavior of consumers here in Russia. First of all, of course, all the restaurants were crowded with people because people were really starving for wine dinners, for events, and for just having fun in the restaurants. So all the restaurants now, they are full of people. But I need to say that during the last year, during the quarantine, we didn't have the financial support, let's say, from the government. So people were very limited with income, with money, because some part of people, they were working, sitting at home. But for example, the personnel of the restaurants, they didn't have anything. They were just sitting home, not getting salary, not getting support. So people were very limited with money, with income. And of course, it influenced, let's say, the way of consumption of wines in the restaurants. So the people started to drink more, let's say, cheap wines, and they started to looking for new regions, which are presented with the more cheap wines. So new regions like, for example, Portugal wines, which is cheaper even than Spanish wines and French wines. So that was the first trend, and that was really, quite powerful. The second was connected with the COVID again. It's the increasing the popularity of Russian wines, of local wines. The first reason is price, but I think the most powerful reason and the most important reason is that the borders were closed and we had only inside tourism. So people were visiting Russian winemaking regions like Crimea, like Caucasus, different. And the Russian wines, they got, it's not like rocketing trend, but they got the jump of popularity. And people started to drink more Russian wines and started to drink and to order in the restaurants more Russian wines. So again, the first, the first increase of popularity of Russian wines happened in 2014. And now it seems like we have the second one. So there is a third trend, but I think I will say about this a few words later because it's very, technical. But it's fully connected with the way of consumption wines.
Okay, I think our audience is ready to go for technical things. So, okay, let me go through and put another question on the table. We have been here experiencing a bit of now that we are reopening, a shortage of staff because people is slowly going back to work, but the staff are still quite short in restaurants. This is one thing, and the other thing is many restaurants, they are looking for staff and having problems to get people to work in. So because many people just found another kind of occupation, so that's quite complicated in here. And also those customers are quite demanding now. Shortage of staff, demanding people. So it's kind of a difficult situation for us here in Spain. Andy, I don't know if you have been experiencing the same. I don't know if you are looking for people to work into your restaurants and having problems to find it. How are the customers? Are they more demanding or not?
Yeah, it's kind of everything we've heard, and we're seeing it as well. Shortage of staff, and you're seeing articles every day in the newspapers, and you're seeing reports about it. We're seeing it on the restaurant floors where we could do more business, we just don't have the bodies to do it with. And a thing I think that isn't really being discussed a lot because there's this talk of people don't want to work or don't want to come back. I think after a year off, a lot of people, year off is a cute way to put it, but I'm going to give you an example. My wife has been in the industry for 20 years, and after this past year, she said, "I'm out. I'm going to find something else to do." And she said, "Why?" So she could have any general manager restaurant job in Washington D.C. she wanted at this point, anywhere. And she said, "Why do I want to go work for $60,000, 6-7 days a week, get yelled at by rude people, have staff not show up, just, come home at 3:00 in the morning for meh money, and for my feet to hurt, my back to hurt, my body to be broken, and to get no love from even the people I want to take care of?" And I think you've seen a lot of people this year reestablish what genuinely matters. So I think more than just we don't have staff coming back, I think we need to talk about what the industry, and I'm not going to open this can of worms for all of us here today, but I think we need to think about this industry. It's a mean industry. It's hard work for bad money and a lot of abuse. And I'm not surprised people don't want to come back. I mean, everyone on this panel, we all navigated our way through those hurdles and through those strange mazes to get to a place where we have, I like to believe, we have a higher quality of life in the restaurant industry than most people do. But, to the average worker, this is hard work for bad money and a lot of just heartache. So I'm not surprised we're not seeing people come back. You can make bad money doing lots of other stuff and feel a lot better at the end of the day. Yeah. So yeah, we're struggling with that. And yeah, I am seeing the guests are more, it's funny, we were all considered essential workers when when you weren't allowed to go to restaurants. But once we came back, it's like, yeah, but I waited 8 minutes for my hamburger. I want it now. And it's just, and that I think a lot of people just said, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. So I trust we're all going to struggle with staff for a while until this industry overhauls how we pay and how we treat humans. And I'm lucky that Jose is such a good human that we're not suffering as much as other companies because we treat our staff well. We pay better than most people. We offer better benefits, and we're pretty adamant that if you're a jerk of a manager, you're not going to last with us for a minute. You better be nice to people, or we're not going to deal with you. But still, this industry needs an overhaul emotionally and spiritually. I think for people to really want to come back to it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, well, here in Spain, we are taking some measures, such as regulating 8 hours for all the workers, but still a long way to be done. Roberto, best wine bar in the planet, no discussion here. Are you having problems to find staff? How are the members of your wine club? Are they happy? Are they more exigent than ever?
For us, it's different because for us, the sommelier, if someone wants to develop sommelier skills, it's easier to come here and work. But it's true in UK, it's lack of talent. A lot of restaurants are looking crazy stuff because they cannot find front of house or even sommelier. And it's true that at the point that we have more people, or we have more empty space that need to be filled up, and we have less people for taking those positions, the salaries are going high. What does mean? The cost of everything will be affecting the selling price. And as well, I remember when I arrived in UK was 5 years ago, was crazy market, was very competitive market, and now it's suffering a lot because we cannot find very, very good sommeliers for being on the floor, or people who really want to develop sommelier skills. But for us, it's totally different because the Palmer project is bringing something new to the world, because we have now, for example, we created the event online sommeliers, and it's a new trend in the market, and sommeliers who is looking after, the television, or is looking after the private testing with companies, and it's totally different. But
I did follow some of them during the pandemic, and it was great. Yeah.
Yes, but it's true, as Andy said, it's very tough to, especially for Andy, because he's master sommelier. He knows exactly, what the people who is preparing exam or WCT or master sommelier or the master of wine, how difficult it is try to manage the working hours with the studying hours. It's quite tough. As well, sometimes if the salaries are higher, will be everyone will appreciate it, I'm sure about that, but the selling price will be more expensive than supposed to be. And
well, that's probably then for customers to explain that restaurants are becoming kind of more luxury, no, and they need to be also ready to spend to spend more.
But I will give you one question, because Mari has a Spanish experience, and now, of course, is a good friend of mine in Barcelona. He has a Spanish experience. Of course, you have a Spanish experience. But do you really think that the Spanish bosses want to pay more to one people who is looking only after the wine program? I really think,
I think Spanish are not ready to pay more for a restaurant experience, to be honest. Yeah.
Maybe, it's in
Europe. I don't think that's just Spain.
Okay.
Maybe because here is different, because the English customer is ready to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you give them good service, good attention, details, a good offer, they were happy. They doesn't care if they pay 100, 200 pounds per head. But in Spain, I cannot see more than 35 euros per head, and the customer is even happy, to be honest with you. I think in Spain, we need to work more in a lot of things that need to be done. It's my opinion. After, being Spanish, developing a sommelier career out of Spain, and this is the big, and question to them.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Roberto. Maripol, how is the situation in Asia? Short of staff, demanding customers, wine service. How are you living out?
Firstly of all, staffing-wise is, just Australia is a bloody nightmare. It's almost impossible to find staff, or they come in for one day, they won't come back, they don't show up. It's really, 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 really tough. You can as well feel like the passion for a lot of people is actually just gone, and it's very sad to see as well. If they think like, oh yeah, I have done this job for 2 months right now, you need to give me a promotion, and they get $1 more somewhere else and they're gone. So it's very sad to see. So yeah, I think that is where we all have to work on, I think, together to try and find passionate people again and make them enthusiastic again to work in this industry, because it's beautiful. I work a lot of hours right now due to short staff, but we got to find it.
And are you being able to keep the standards? I mean,
yes, but I have to say, like, I can feel my staff in certain restaurants. They're extremely tired because they make a lot of over hours, work on days off. So it is, obviously difficult for them as well, like to keep really on top of the game, even they're so exhausted. And then obviously, like the guests here in Hong Kong, they're very demanding, extremely demanding. But yeah.
Okay, thank you, Maripol. Okay, if you ever need me, just drop me.
Please come over, please.
I don't know, how is the situation over there. Yeah, it looks like a paradise to be able to work in the Mauritius, and maybe some more kind of relaxed customers. How is the situation? Are you being able to get good wine staff? Are customers kind of relaxed there, or is the same?
So in our case, being a very old property, we are lucky that the staff, you will not believe, but I will say 99% of the staff, it's local. They are, most of them, here for many years. We are celebrating every day in an agenda. Before any meeting, we always have a picture of one of them for the birthday anniversary at work. Like this morning, 35 years in the same place and sometimes in the same position. Because of the fact of having loyal customer, our staff is also loyal to the property. So this is a very good thing to have. What happened this year 2020, last year, we had early retirement of a part of the team. So we lose part of a team that was actually they was asked if they prefer to leave or to stay. And some of them said, look, we prefer to retire early. So we lose quite a big part, mostly in F&B, in our case, in between kitchen and restaurants and sommelier. But now we are in a time of recruiting, knowing the borders are going to start opening in July 15. We think we are going to start a big fight in between all the islanders to try to find the best and the first one to get it. So it will be a little bit like Marie-Paul. I think it will be like if I pay 50 rupees more than the neighbors, maybe I have the position. So it will be we will be entering in a war. I mean, we are looking for key position also, like the mixologist or also some sommelier, but in a very low numbers of expats. So it will be more an internal war in a Mauritius war than anything else.
Okay.
Coming back to the customer profile, like you said, they are in an island. Even the CEO will be in Hong Kong, will be stressful and will be maybe more demanding, or maybe if they are coming to Singapore. But here they are coming for just relax. So I'm actually very surprised that we have no complaint, to be honest. Guests are really peaceful. They understand because it's local service, it's local employees, even though the service is a good quality. Us as expats, we are always more exigent than others, so we see the mistake, but the guests will never complain. They don't see that and they say, you know what, they are local, they can do better. So they are excused. So this is good. But we anticipate, it's good that you mentioned that, we anticipate a change of customer, to be honest. First, because they haven't been traveling for the last year or year and a half. And like we know, we have a big gap now, and we have people that are becoming more rich, and we are maybe the new generation of rich people that will be more exigent with less knowledge. So they want maybe the thing quicker. So we anticipate already this to come. We are 35% of regular customer coming every year for the last 35 or 40 years. And this is sometimes the son coming or the daughter coming when they was coming with their parents. So they are reliving them. But it's, we anticipate to have a different demand. So we need to keep the standards.
It looks like a great place to work and develop a career. So no, well done on your side. Thanks for sharing it. Roman, you owe us the third trend. So that's now your turn. You already talked about trend 1, trend 2 in Moscow with this shocking news about the vaccines. But now it's time for your third trend.
The third trend, the technical one. Well, the technical one is connected with that. One of the measures, the protective, let's say, measures that were made by our government here in Moscow, but in other regions too. It was the limit of the time for working of restaurants. So we are finishing to work in restaurant now in 11 p.m. because usually all the restaurants in Russia and in Moscow. You hear me now?
Yeah, now.
Okay, so usually all the restaurants in Moscow and Russia, they work till the last client. So it's okay for some here to finish his work in the morning. Now it's canceled. It's only till 11 p.m. And people who are coming to the restaurant in the evening, they usually do not have enough time to finish their drink, let's say so, to finish their bottle, or they even don't. They're not even going to finish the bottle. They just want to buy it as they make it in the shop. So what is becoming more popular? It's quite a funny trend, very small, but anyway. The Vinalog and corkscrew bottles, they're becoming more popular. Why? Because there are two different types of selling license for the restaurant. For the bottle that you can sell in the restaurant, but you have to open it. And another license is for the bottle that you can sell, and the client can take away this bottle, but closed one. Mm-hmm. So most of the restaurants, they have only first type of license. So they cannot sell you bottle without opening it.
Okay.
So what people make, they're buying bottles corked, let's say corked by Vinolog or corkscrew. They can open it and take the bottle away with themselves. Mm-hmm. So they're not drinking it in the restaurant. They're just buying it like in the restaurant, like in the wine shop, taking it away, and that's all. So it's quite a small trend, but it's becoming, let's say, more popular now in Moscow restaurants.
Okay. And why not? Why they don't recork like with a normal cork? Sorry.
Because they are buying it like the wine in the shop. They're not drinking it. They can not even open it. You know.
Okay. I see. Excellent. I think we're starting to run out of time, so it's time to close the session. Thank you all to being here to share your comments, to do this point of situations about the customers, about the staff things, and all your ideas that you put on the table. So thank you very much. It's a great pleasure. I don't know how to do this kind of applause now through the screen, but you all deserve a big applause. I mean, it's a bit weird, guys. Sorry. I don't know how to do it. I don't know. So it's really great to see you all. You of course know how much respect I do have for you and my great admiration. So I really hope we can gather again really soon. So yeah. Thank you, honestly. Thank you for sharing those moments. We are organizing the party, Somms edition, so I will let you know about it. A joke. But honestly, here we are for anything you may need, and thank you for giving this information, which is super up to date, super important for all the audience. So thank you, honestly, for being here with us.
And thank you, Ferran, for doing such a great job.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great day tonight, whatever time it is where you are. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guapos y guapas.
Yeah, bye.
Adiós.
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 Ferran, qué interesante. Muchísimas gracias por esta oportunidad de ver en 40 minutos la situación de las tendencias de la sumillería en los 5 continentes. Gracias.
Sí, muy bien también hablar no solo de técnicas de servicio, de recomendación, sino de vivir el día a día de la sumillería como esta disciplina que se desarrolla sobre todo en restaurantes gastronómicos, y entender también la profesión desde dentro. Así que ha sido una muy buena oportunidad. Las 5 personas que estaban en el panel, pues son personas totalmente de máximo nivel, y la verdad que tener su opinión es fascinante. Un gran punto de situación.
Fantástico. We are going to continue in English if you want, because we have a superstar guest. Later on are coming the second part of the sommelier edition by Spanish Wine Academy of Ramón Bilbao, with Spanish sommeliers, with David Robledo, with Carlos Chapresto, with Manela Romeralo, with Paula Menendez, with a lot of key people. But right now we are going to talk about neuromarketing and neuroscience. It's quite interesting. So go ahead with the next guest, Janis. So let's go to continue with this Somms edition.
Hello, Janis.
Hello, Ferran.
Hello. Look, for the audience, it's a great pleasure to introduce you, the one and only PhD Janis Wang. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Always great to talk with you, to listen to all your interesting research and all this kind of information and investigations you bring to the restaurant world. So for just let me introduce you. Janice Wang, PhD. She's I don't know if I can say it that way, but you're kind of a brain expert, connected with the restaurant experience, with the wine experience, especially. Well, I will do some gossip now about you. Sorry about that. But Janice just went through the first MW exams just to get into the program. So you see her profile. Okay, we all are crossing the fingers for you in our homes. So really crossing the fingers for you. So Janice, the brain expert on the sensorial side, starting this MW, doing all this kind of experimental psychology. I don't know if it's a precise word. And now at Aarhus University. And the person that can help us to increase and maximize the restaurant experiences, the wine experiences, by explaining us how the brain works. So I had the opportunity to share the first Neurowine Congress with you back in times. That was great. And so we are absolutely looking about what's the trend now. How is your research been doing these years, and all you can explain us and help us to just understand better our customers. So thank you, Janice. And for the guys, for all you that you are looking the Somms edition at home, make sure you pay attention to Janice, because she's really the one and only that can talk the best about neuroscience and restaurants. Thank you, Janice.
Thank you so much, Ferran. Now I'm sorry I don't have a quiz to test you afterwards, but here we go. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for pronouncing Aarhus University so properly. It's really an honor to be here at this Spanish Wine Academy event. I'm an assistant professor at the Department of Food Science at Aarhus University, and I show this map for those of you who don't know where Denmark is. Denmark is the country in red, and Aarhus is the second city of Denmark. And I have an arrow here to show you where it is. It's on the eastern side of the Jutland Peninsula. So now we have a geography class out of the way. I work for the science team that is called Food Quality, Perception and Society. And my background is in computer science and experimental psychology. And I study the sensory experience of eating. But I think for this audience, what might be more interesting is that I also have a strong connection to the wine world. I have a WICT diploma, and I judge International Wine Challenge in London. Well, in the before COVID times, I did. I did my PhD at Oxford, and when I was there, I was the president of the Oxford University Blind Tasting Society. So while I was doing my PhD, I also participated in many blind wine tasting competitions, and I helped to train many new blind tasters. I even wrote several scientific papers on the blind tasting training process. And like Ferran said, I'm currently applying for the Master of Wine program, and hopefully I will get in the autumn. So the reason why I find wine so fascinating is that not only is it a delicious beverage, but from a scientific perspective, wine tasting can actually tell us a lot about how the brain works. So, how can the eating experience reveal the way the brain processes information? Well, I would like to share today some of my research that looks at how eating involves all the senses, even those that we don't usually think about, like vision, like hearing, like touch. And from a neuroscientific perspective, I'm interested in how the way we taste food and wine what that can reveal about the way the brain processes information coming from the different senses. And I promise this is my only fairly scientific slide. I wanted to show you the way and the models in which the brain processes information. So if you look at A here, A shows the way that scientists used to think about the brain. So people used to think that the brain just passively processes information coming from the environment. So if we were to taste a glass of wine, the brain would only start to process the taste of the wine once we have the wine in our mouth. So it's a very passive processing. So this is the old way of thinking about how the brain works. However, in recent times, there's a new model of brain processing that is called the predictive coding or the predictive processing model. And according to this new model, the brain is not passive, it is very active. So if we go back to our example with the wine tasting, even before the wine touches our lips, the brain is already starting to make predictions about what the wine would taste like. For example, just by seeing the bottle or just by seeing the glass of wine, it's already starting to kick off the prediction process. It's the same reason that we start salivating when we just see a picture of a lemon or smell a lemon. The body tries to stay one step ahead, and it will start to react even before we taste something. And this is a very important concept that I will come back to again and again in my examples. So what I study is so-called multisensory flavor perception. And this predictive model of how the brain works is why our perception of food can extend beyond the food itself. It's because our brain is so good at making these predictions. And when it comes to food, it is so important that we get these predictions right, because it's really a matter of life and death, what we put in our mouth. So the brain is very good at using information from all of the environment, so not just the food, but also, what is the context, what is the packaging, what is the servingware. The brain is really using all the information possible to try and make predictions about what the food is going to taste like. So now let's look at some examples of how the different senses can contribute to the tasting experience. So I'm going to start with color. Before we taste the wine, first we're going to see the color of the wine. And speaking as someone who does do a lot of blind tasting, the color of a wine can give us clues about many things. So for example, some grape varieties will tend to be darker or lighter than others. The color can tell us something about the age of the wine, the climate, etc. But sometimes we can also potentially be fooled by the color of the wine. So some of you might have heard of this very popular study. A lot of popular media will claim that, wine experts can't tell red wine from white wine. And that claims comes from this quite famous study that was done at the University of Bordeaux. In this study, the researchers first gave participants 2 wines. One was white and one was red, like in the picture here. And they asked the participants to make a list of all the aromas they smelled from both wines. And then the next week, the people came back and the researchers gave the participants 2 glasses of wine, and they gave them a list of all the aromas that the participant had named from the week before. Except this time, it was 2 glasses of wine. One was white, and the other one was the white wine that they had dyed a red color. And the participants were given the list of the white wine and red wine aromas, and they were asked to match each aroma to the wine. So what happened was that obviously, because the experimenters were playing a trick, the participants matched the red wine aromas to the fake red wine. And because of this, popular media tends to use it as evidence that, experts can't tell red from white if you give it to them blind. But this is not correct. So what I did in 2018 at the Bring a Wine Symposium that where Ferran and I met each other, is I conducted a study with the participants of the conference where the audience were given 3 wines to taste, like you see in the picture here. I gave them a white wine, a rosé wine, and the same white wine that was dyed a rosé color. Of course, the participants didn't know that I was trying to trick them. And I asked everyone to describe the aromas and the flavors of the 3 wines. And the results here were very interesting. So with the fake rosé wine, people used the same kind of red fruit descriptors, just like for the real rosé, you can see here in this box. And maybe even more interestingly, it was only people with prior wine tasting experience who were tricked by the color of the wine. So what does this tell us? It doesn't really say that wine education is useless, or that, wine experience just makes you tricked by the color. What this actually suggests is that the brain is actively making predictions about the flavor of the wine before we taste it. And this is why those people with the wine tasting experience are able to use their experience to predict that if a wine looks pink, it probably has red fruit flavors. And actually for them, the wine possibly even tastes like strawberries and raspberries. So it's not just a trick. We can actually change people's perception using the color. And I just wanted to show a restaurant example that uses this color to give a surprising experience for the diner. So this is a dish from the 3 Michelin restaurant, the Fat Duck in the UK. And this dish is called a beetroot and orange jelly. So when people get this dish, they usually think, oh, I bet the red wine, the red one will be beetroot, and the orange one will be orange flavored. But actually, this dish is made from blood orange and golden beets. So the diners get a fun shock when they actually taste the food because it's very different from their expectations. So now I'm going to talk about the sound. Full disclosure, my PhD at Oxford was on how music influences flavor perception, so I have a special soft spot for the sense of hearing. So before I start, I know that we have an audience with a lot of sommeliers. I would just like to say that sound really, really matters in a restaurant. Many restaurant designers don't really take acoustics into account, but really noise in the restaurant can be a big problem. Not only in terms of how people enjoy the food, but also the sound level can determine how much people eat or how much money they spend or even what the food tastes like. So starting off, I want to show an example of a study that was conducted at different French bars. And what this study showed was that when the bar was louder, people had more to drink and they drank them faster, so that the baseline noise level can actually influence people's drinking habits. So moving on, the genre of the background music that you play in a wine shop or in a restaurant can also change people's purchase behavior. So, for example, studies have shown that people will pay more at a wine shop when classical music is played compared to top 40 pop music. And also people will stay longer and spend more money in restaurants when the music is jazz or classical compared to pop music. And I should just explain that one reason why this could happen is that classical music will tend to prime people with the idea of luxury, so that they end up exhibiting behaviors that would also match the concept of luxury, for example, buying more expensive wine. But we should also remember that what's more important is that the music should match the environment. So, for example, it would make no sense to play classical music if you were running like a funky natural wine bar. Instead, you should probably be playing funky jazz to match the kind of products you have on offer. And now I want to talk briefly about music and wine pairing, because this is a topic that I have published on pretty extensively. So first of all, wine writers will often use music as a kind of metaphor to describe wines. So I have a quick quote here from Hugh Johnson, describing Robert Mondavi's reserve Cabernets like a Duke Ellington number. And now I will run a very quick demo on the audience. So I'm going to play 2 very quick excerpts of music, and I want you to think about which one matches better with a red wine and which one would match better with a white wine. So here's music number 1, if I do this properly. So I hope you could all hear that. And here's music number 2. Okay, that was the 2 pieces of music. And the reason why I show this is because the same music was used in the study that I'm showing here, where the researchers were looking to find good matches between music and wine. So, for example, the first piece I played was Tchaikovsky's String Quartet number 1. That music, I don't know if you thought that matched better with red wine, but in this study, Tchaikovsky's String Quartet was found to be a good match with Chateau Margaux 2004. The participants were very lucky, I should say, to participate in this study. The second piece of music I played was Mozart's Flute Quartet in D major, and the participants found that to match well with Domaine Didier Dagenot's Pluie Fumée Silex. And maybe more interestingly, based on that match, is that in a follow-up study, the researchers found that when people tasted the same wines with the matching music, it made their wine tasting experience more pleasurable compared to when they tasted the wine with no music at all. And maybe you can say this is why Krug, for example, really emphasizes their music and wine matchings. And just to switch over to a restaurant example, this is a very famous dish called the Sound of the Sea from, again, the Fat Duck. And this dish is served with headphones so that you can literally listen to the sound of the sea while you're eating a seafood dish. So I wanted to also show some examples of how we can incorporate music into a meal. These are demos from my friend and collaborator Ben Hogue, who teaches at the Berklee School of Music in Boston. So in the first example here, each diner has an individual speaker in front of them to play music that will match with the dish that they're eating. They also get an iPad. The second example I chose because it's closer to home. This was a collaboration that Ben did. It was the restaurant Mugaritz. So this is a dish that will play music as you eat it. So basically the base of the dish here contains a mechanism that will trigger music playback only when the glass bell jar on top is lifted, so that the music presentation can be precisely timed to when the dish is unveiled in front of the diner. And finally, I want to look at some examples of how the sense of touch can influence the tasting experience. So in this quite fun study, this was done at a dinner event in Oxford, we had 2 groups of participants who ate the same dinner, but they either used lightweight or heavyweight utensils. And the fun finding was that those who had heavier cutlery also rated the food to be more artistic, and they were willing to pay more for the food. And they ate the same food, the only difference was the weight of the cutlery. And something that I'm very curious about, and there's no studies that have been done on this, is what would happen with the weight of the wine glass? We know that some producers will put the wines in heavier bottles to communicate an idea of luxury, but what would happen with wine glasses? So for example, would people think the same wine tastes better in a heavier glass or a light glass? Or would that depend on your expertise? So this, I put this as an open question for you all. And finally, I want to show another example that we did at the Brain and Wine Symposium in Barcelona. In this case, I had people touch either velvet or a piece of sandpaper with one hand while they were holding the wine glass with the other hand. They were tasting a fortified dessert wine. And what I found was that the same wine tasted sweeter and more pleasant when people were touching velvet compared to when they was touching sandpaper. And again, to show a restaurant example, this is a dish at the Fat Duck that is a dessert dish. It's meant to emphasize the creaminess and sweet milk flavors. But what is very interesting is that the spoon, if you look at the spoon, it comes wrapped in this soft fur. And if we go back to the predictive processing theory that I mentioned earlier, we can interpret this as the feeling of the soft fur makes it easier for us to pay attention to the soft and creamy texture of the food itself. So let me sum up. When we taste a glass of wine, it's not just what's inside the glass that counts. In fact, eating involves all the senses, and our brains are constantly trying to make predictions about how the food and the wine is going to taste even before we taste it. And I will just leave you with some guidelines for those of you who might be thinking about creating a wine experience or a restaurant experience. So keep in mind that manipulating one sense can have consequence on the others. So for example, if you turn up the loudness of the music in a restaurant, that could alter the way the food tastes. It's very important that we use all the senses to tell the same story. So if you run a funky wine bar, maybe don't play the classical music. And finally, just because we can play around with our senses doesn't mean that we always have to. Be selective and beware that sensory overload is a real thing. And if we put too many sensory stimuli together, that might in fact do more harm than good. Okay, and on that note, I will end my talk and I will stop sharing.
Thank you, Janice. It's always great to listen to you. I always end up being a bit depressed about all it, how our brain trick us about when tasting wine. It's always great. So thanks for sharing it. We have a question from the audience.
Yes.
And it's about a book that it's been quite popular for us sommeliers, and it happens. I do have it in my library. Is this one here? Neuroenology.
Yes, I have also the book in my library here.
Yeah. So I'm sure you know this. Okay, good. That's very good. Yeah. So we want just if you can comment this on this book and give us your opinion about it, and maybe ask if we will be seeing this kind of publications more and more in the wine industry.
I really hope so. Yeah, Gordon Shepherd is quite a respected scientist. And I should say that, in fact, the reason why I would like to apply to be a Master of Wine is because I want there to be more communication between academia and the wine trade. Mm-hmm. And I feel like what we're missing are people who can speak both languages. Mm-hmm. And what I'm always trying to tell my academic colleagues is that, I like drinking wine, not just because it's fun, but also because it tells us so much about how the brain works. Because it's at once something that uses all of our senses, and also because when we taste, we also incorporate memory. It involves cognition. I do competitive blind tasting. So there's so much brain processing going on when it comes to wine tasting. And I think, to be honest, that the academic world hasn't really realized what exactly wine tasting means for the study of the brain. So I definitely hope that more books like this will come out.
That's great.
And I hope to write them.
Yeah, thank you, Janice. And when it happens that you invent a music for our customers to be more relaxed and pay more tips, or just let me know,
Yeah, I will.
when you do this research and discover something unique about it, let me know. We can do some business.
Yes.
So I hope the audience have enjoyed this speech. I'm sure you all did. It's great to have researchers helping us to understand our senses, this neuroenology, and all the stuff. And we'll be seeing that trend and hopefully more research being done in this way. So Janice, thank you. Applause again for you. I'm doing myself at home, but I'm sure all the people at the places they are doing the same. You are great. Thanks for being part of the wine wall. We're also very proud about all the things you're doing. Excellent researcher and excellent person. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
And thank you so much.
Muchas gracias.
Yeah. De nada.
Bien, Janice. Oye, qué afortunados somos. Thank you, Janice. Bueno, familia, la habéis disfrutado, seguro. Continuaremos en castellano porque estamos preparando la mesa redonda que viene a continuación. Pero antes, permitirnos poner un pequeño vídeo que nos habla sobre los paisajes del vino español.
Pues continuamos. Muchísimas gracias, Ferran, a todos los amigos de Internacional, a Yanis por esa sesión súper interesante para aprender a cómo podemos aportar los sentidos y estimularlos dentro del restaurante con todos, no solamente con el gusto y el olfato, que es lo que nos gusta, sino con todos. Al final estamos haciendo una experiencia y eso es de lo que vamos a hablar ahora, porque de verdad me complace muchísimo decir que a las 18:24, 6:24 aquí en La Rioja vamos a presentar esta mesa redonda con una ponencia que tiene tela, ¿no? ¿Verdad? Manuela, tiene tela porque ¿cómo hacemos una experiencia en el restaurante? Manuela Romeralo, qué alegría saludarte.
Buenas tardes, Alberto. Buenas tardes a todos.
Es un placer saludarte, Manuela Romeralo. No sé cómo presentarte, Premio Nacional de Gastronomía 2008, Premio Internacional de Gastronomía
participate in the Gastronomy Prize Award, and also
campeona del mundo. Antes yo hablaba de que estamos en
she's
el
a
año olímpico, en el
champion
año de
of
Eurocopa, pues aquí
world
tenemos una
champion,
campeona del
and
mundo
now this is the
de
Olympic year. She's a sommelier
Bueno,
champion,
una de las personas más importantes en el mundo de la
and
sommelier
one
a
of the
nivel
most
nacional.
important
Y además yo creo que vas a aportar
people
una
at
visión muy
sommelier level.
interesante en esta
And
charla,
you're going to provide your
porque
view,
tú
very
trabajas ahora
interesting
mismo
view,
en
because
un
now
grupo
you
en 3
are
restaurantes,
working
todos de la mano de
in
Quique da
different
Costa
restaurants by
en tu
Quique
zona.
da
Estás en
Costa.
Poblet, que tiene una estrella Michelin,
You're the
dos soles,
Poblet
por lo cual
which
tienes
has one
dos, perdón.
Michelin, two
Con lo que
Michelin
cuesta,
stars.
discúlpame. Tenemos un
Sorry,
gastronómico total, tenemos
You
Vuelta
also have
Carolina
a full
y tenemos
gastronomic
el
restaurant and then Mercambag.
Nos falta Alberto, el último llegado.
Now we have the last one, which was opened in 2018, Risa Negra. Right now, I'm physically in Risa Negra's room, and we will talk about it later. This is a very cool cultural restaurant. So we have 4 different projects. You have 4 different projects. Oh, you are so courageous. What capacity, you know. And now I would like to welcome another person who is very important, very lucky to be with her, which is Paula Virginia from Wine Veritage. They represent perhaps a different way to cope with sommelier world. One step forward to the business, to the consultant business. Paula Virginia, how are you? Good afternoon. It's a pleasure for us to be here with you. 2 people, young people, well-trained young people that have gone through different gastronomic restaurants, well-known restaurants with Michelin stars, very courageous people, by the way, in order to get involved in a consulting firm and to support the gastronomy world. So now we would like for you to tell us about that, you know, your view, you know, your point of view as sommelier. How do you see the flexibility of the career? Because sometimes some of my friends are sommelier as well, say that sometimes brands, you know, take sommeliers out of their restaurants, which is quite important. So welcome. But before, you know, we ask the first questions, allow me to introduce a man, a Spanish person who's a good friend, a representative of the Spanish sommelier world, Rabbi David Robledo. How are you? Good afternoon. How are you? I am enjoying. Did you enjoy the first part, the first section? It was very interesting indeed. I think it was very interesting. They were very different as papers, especially this one, you know, because this one was very interesting. This last paper speech. You have a lot to say regarding the restaurant experience, but please allow me to introduce David, even though you're familiar with him. For the last years, he has been one of the main pilots. He's from Segovia, and right now he's the gastronomic director of Arma Carroviejas, which is one of the a reflex, a mirror of many brands in order to boost, you know, the wine world, to look for different settings. And of course, you know, the Michelin star that just was awarded to them, and I'm sure this is a fabulous time. You are going to say a lot. We have between 40 and 45 minutes to talk. Let's squeeze everything in with those 45 minutes. Manuela, you have 4 restaurants, not 3, right? How did you do? And what is the wine role in for each restaurant? I guess the wine role personality is different, you know, when it comes to a gastronomic restaurant compared to other type of different restaurants. Well, let me explain to you. I was lucky enough to be the manager to lead this, although I'm a sommelier, okay? So at the restaurants that I work, the wine aspect is always there, you know, wine is always there. On the other hand, I was also very lucky that our chef, Quique da Costa, is also a wine lover, and this is also very important. It has some influence. So I guess this is about the synergy, good synergies that helped us to to make wine an important element. We began with Carolina, and for which we made a good selection, wine selection, according to the cooking offer. Carolina is, a place where different type of people go visit. This is a restaurant that initially, even though it was paired with, initially it was a restaurant born with the idea to have a product rooted in the land, the territory. And for that reason, we didn't use any international wines. Instead, we used local wines, Spanish wine. So Poblet, of course, has 2 Michelin stars, and Fernandez is the person there. He is continually adapting to this more sophisticated cooking, that requires a different type of wines, fresh wines, based on the type of cooking, gastronomy, which is a very flavory, juicy cooking. But anyway, those wines are very specific, good wine selection from around the world. This Mesa Negra, that's the one who arrived in 2010 and 18, sorry. Lisa Negra, sorry. But I would say that this restaurant actually uses, the market products, because Risa, the chef, buys a product at the same time, in the morning. So Lisa Negra, we offer specific glasses of wine for specific dishes. We don't have a pairing, established pairing system. Perhaps a person might ask for order a bottle of wine, and other times we serve these specific glasses of wines that perhaps with a smaller amount of wines, they can try different things, different products. So that's an opportunity for us as a customers, as guests, to try a different type of wines. And now with those tools, that we can try different bottles. You say something very important indeed. When we talk about restaurants, we talk about hotel business, but it's very important. Chefs, sometimes the owner or the owner, are very important in the wine world. And so we are going to talk with Sylvia from the Mandarin restaurant in Madrid, which is linked to Kike and Carlos Chapreto and Ferran, how this wine list is prepared, about the profitability, etc. But now I'm going to ask David if the restaurant owner is also a wine expert. Is it the wine a real experience? In the case of Paro, which is another restaurant. Yes. Perhaps that's one of the things that it was more appealing to me, more attractive to me back then, just as a Caro Ovejas, a restaurant, everybody is familiar with this. I think it was very clear to me what type of restaurant I want to run. The easy thing, of course, will be to reproduce the successful model of Jose Maria Segovia, but I wanted to run a gastronomic restaurant and also to actually boost, the wine world, so that wine will be the main character of such a gastronomic experience. It was an effort, of course, and it was a time to actually cope with different problems, among which the COVID experience. But it's very important for me. That's one of the reasons I work as Pedro is running the company. And it was very courageous because many wineries, by the way, I'm not talking about wineries. Let's talk about regions, because I'm from Valladolid and I live in La Rioja. It's very difficult to drink a La Rioja wine in Ribera del Duero and vice versa. However, your restaurant from the beginning, very beginning, you provide an assortment of wines, not only international wines, which it might be easier, for those not competitors, but wine from the Ribera del Duero, other, winemakers that go to Ambivud, such an open mind is so important, in this regard. Yes, that's one of the reasons Ambivud is somehow successful, and right now is going up, is growing. And many wineries with restaurants only offer their own wines, and I think that is a mistake. We offer good wines, regardless where they're from. Of course, we also provide the Carro Ovejas wines, but we're trying to serve good wines, not only international ones such as French wines, etc., but also from other European countries. We're trying to actually serve or offer, the competitors' wines. And this is something very nice, because you can come here to Ambibu to drink a Carro Ovejas, Pago Carro Ovejas wine, but also you can drink any other wine, that belongs to the Ribera Duero designation of origin. Of course, this is a good thing to do. This is a success. And I'm going to ask the two of you how consulting experts, and when you go to Manuela or David's restaurants, how we can actually focus. The idea of having a restaurant or a winery that wants to actually include other wines, for example, cherry wines. How can you actually build this type of wine list to have this experience and to tell them wine should be actually your core experience? Of course, the environment of the restaurant, the setting is very important, and of course, you need to listen to them, to listen to their views. Well, you should actually move forward. Let's not just stay in the comfort area. Let's just move forward so that we are trying to actually have an ampler experience, which is the nicest thing, That's how we learn as professionals, by traveling throughout the world, When you have a glass of wine, you listen to the guest, the customer. Manuela, how do you see the synergies? For example, do you have a core wine list, that is used for different projects? How did you do it? Because you have so many different brands. Yes, of course. The first wine list that I prepared was the Bulle Carolina, and then the Poblet, and then Caprat y Lisa Negra, Met Calpar y Lisa Negra. Yes, when we are trying different wines at a wine exhibition with a supplier, you can help it, when you are trying, I noted down, the different characteristics for different wines. This is a continuous work. You don't select, this is for the Poblet, this is for Carolina restaurant, but in your mind you have the 4 different restaurants, and that's how you work, So in order to do that, our relation connection with the suppliers and distributors is very important. That's one that we have to take care of, Sommeliers, of course, sommeliers are also important, very important persons, essential people. They are actually keep us up to date, tell us what is going on, what is the opportunity to, for example, say, keep some wine, and so to store some wine in order to build a cellar. Otherwise, if you don't have the wine, you have to just rush to buy, and of course, wines are more expensive. So in that regard, I can tell the supplier, please, would you mind to just put aside 2 cases? And of course, they know that you have 4 restaurants, so they keep offering you different choices, different opportunities. They say, for example, I have this wine for you, for Poblet, Lisa Negra, etc. So I am really relying on these suppliers and distributors. I'm so glad that you talk about this, because they are our friends. But at the moment, right now, wineries, for example, Ramón Bilbao is a very dynamic winery with so many products. Sometimes we have the feeling that we call sommeliers and we offer different things, and you don't have much time. Because sometimes, to run a sommelier establishment is not about winery, but you cellar, you have a team to run in a restaurant, and sometimes we think, I have the feeling that the wine sellers, bothering, annoying you when we called you. But it's very important to keep this relation. How we can improve this relation, by the way? I think this is a type of organizing, a kind of organizing. I remember the suppliers, just went by trying to get in the winery restaurant. You didn't have time, but I don't know. It's not about lining suppliers next to your door. I think this is not a way to do it. We shouldn't have 10 people waiting for us. You should organize yourself, and whenever you have time, to listen to them, then you call them. And when I have because once I heard 8 people, I visited 8 people. I'm tired. That's not the way you organize yourself, David. Do you have all the suppliers, distributors, waiting for you at the door? No. Of course, yeah. I totally agree with Manuela. We need organization, of course, and also we need to respect them, because it's such a tough job. It is not valued, it's not recognized, and many wine sellers, commercials, need to just go around in circles and visit different people, and and there are some people, by the way, who actually do not mind them, just don't care about them. And I know many sommeliers that work in the hotel business, and went to move to another places in order to work as a wine sellers, thinking that or hoping that they were going to have a better life, but they were confused. So we need to actually respect them and to keep good communication. So sommeliers, prefer to be visited. Others, want to just come to your establishment. And I don't need the wine seller to come here to see the catalog. Others rather, to have the catalog be sent to them. So as Manuela said, there's not my case, you only have one day to just listen to all the distributors and sellers. So this is about being order, tidy fashion, the 2 sides are working together in order to have this encounter. As you say, it's very tough. It's not recognized. But I guess, the wine cellar team, is highly trained. And now you can talk about anything, any region, not only international wine, but other Spanish region. And they have capacity actually to talk about, wines that belong to other designations of origin. And they can actually advise you in order to choose, the different wines, the proper ones for you. Virginia, that's what you do in Veritas, in Wine Veritas. That's the way you work in your consulting firm. Oh, yes, especially in Wine Veritas, what we do is we actually meet the client's needs. And we go to the restaurant, we're trying to go beyond there, We're trying to analyze, we sit down with them, we're trying to analyze their needs, to examine their needs, review their needs. And then once we complete this job, we talk with distributors. So in the end, you want to actually check, a wine region. And when you get to know one region, you want to get to know the clients. You want to actually get to know their needs, their requirements, and then once you know it, you're trying to find out what you can actually offer, how you can meet their needs, and what is important. Now let's try to focus on the title, the paper title, how we can actually create a restaurant experience, of course, because different types, diverse types, we can create different experiences. However, David, and maybe you, how do you think you are creating, or you created, what is your aim with your sommelier team? Such an awesome team, by the way. How do you do to create an experience and the client knows about it? Of course, wine is actually the starting point. Wine is the starting point. Everything dove around the wine. It's something that was very appealing to me, anyone here, because we're crazy about wines. Of course, this is our life. And when you have a restaurant with wine, of course, wine is like a thematic part, This is my side, this is my place, and that's why I'm so enthusiastic about it, because I love wine. And as I have been doing for the last years in all my professional life, when you try a dish, sommelier is at the same time trying to find the right wine. But it's not about that we rely on the dish, but also rely on the dish, and then we rely on the wine, the proper one. So from that, I talk with sommelier about it. We look for a specific vintage. For example, we talk with the chef and we say we are going to use Formillon, because I think Formillon is a very interesting wine. And with our team, we create different dishes, we try different things, tasting regarding that wine. So first, we choose the wine. Once we have the wine, we actually prepare the dish. For example, fish, for example, is the main character in some restaurants, and then seafood is the main character in other restaurants. So in the end, I don't want to be pretentious, but what I want to I want to offer, a place, for pilgrims. As I did, I went to different regions, different places. For example, if I want to have, food, seasoned food, I know what restaurant to choose, So, for example, I want to be a reference. People, for example, want to try this dish, this one, they know, where to go. So I want to have wine as a main character, main protagonist. So this is like a Disney World, a place for pilgrims, to see those tables covered with wine glasses, and they can try small sips of wine, because we enjoy wines, Sometimes I hear this that let's just drink wine instead of sipping wine only. But Manuela, please, does the audience, the customers that go to any of your establishments, restaurants, need, or do you think they need the wine experience as something mandatory, or they rather go just to try dishes? Because sometimes I have the feeling that we actually condition our guests. I think that in our restaurants, we tell them they have a wine offer, very interesting wine list. That's why I said, and you said that sometimes the owner is a chef, and others, the owner is somebody else, as in the case of David, or as a manager, I create, I run the wine tastings, and that's why, I'm trying to convince people about loving wine. Wine is something they need to be cared for, and this is like a basis for all restaurants, Other restaurants are not focused on the same things depending on the client, the guests they have. So for me, it's very important to get to know your guests, your customers, and what the guests expect from you. There are some of them that do not drink wine, and it doesn't matter, it's okay, they can have different beverages. Okay, how do you cope with this? Do you have an offer in a gastronomic restaurant? Do you have the opportunity for people that do not drink wine? Do you have anything else to offer besides wine? Because I don't drink wine, something that is at the level of the gastronomic offer, perhaps not just water, but something else. Yes, of course, we respect wine that are not willing to drink wine. They rather have water. But as David said, that usually, you have wine from all over the world in a winery, but we need to be open. But we have, for example, a bar only with beers. That's the beer drinker niche, And sometimes, there are not so many places where beer drinkers are cared for. So we can create a menu for for example, a menu for beer drinkers or those that love hot food, for those who love hot food, we offer beers and sherry wines, which work very well. So we have different choices, and now, for example, for those non-alcoholic people, we can also make an offer. We can offer different things. A restaurant has to offer beverages for everybody. Of course, wine is the main thing, but we need to adapt to everybody, so nobody is left out. Paulina.
I think the sommelier has to adapt to all the beverages that the restaurant could have. For example, the case that we were talking about, for example, in Veritas, we create menus that involves all the beverages that we can offer, including tea or kombucha or beer. It exists thousands of options, and it's wonderful to pair the food. So it's not just only wine that we all love, but yes, we have to think about the customer's happiness, because we cannot forget about what the clients want, because what's important is what they want or what they feel as a client. So one of the errors we should not make regarding each position, remembering that where we work and what we do, but the main goal is having the customer happy and going out of the restaurant being happy with what he had received. And we have to be generous, and for example, and they open the door to us, or any other example that can offer some happiness, and he can adapt to the client. So the client should be the most important part of this topic. So we're talking about teas and kombuchas, and about the sherry wine, or the sake, or the Marolo, or the Borgoña, or the Musella. I have two questions, David. You as a trainer, or this question actually goes for all of you. Sommelier training is key, right? But what happens with the customer's training? Because if you want to give the client this quality message, for example, a Gaia from this age, you have to teach the customer about who's Gaia and where it's coming from, and you don't have to explain too much, but at least just give them some key points. So how did you do that? Or does the typical client know more and more, or well, I think the general client or society right now, they know much more compared to 10 years ago. Of course, any person that we know in our environment, even our relatives, we know that they know more about wine, and they read a lot about wine, and they ask you for recommendations about enology books, and they drink a lot of wine. But also, this is the way they should learn, right? You have to drink the wine. And I'm saying drinking and not testing. There are more and more people in this society who know what they really want. So that makes us to be more trained and know more in order to give a good service. So if you even think about internet and all the technology we have, well, I'm older, but when we started this kind of businesses, you could say whatever you wanted to the client. But nowadays you cannot, because, for example, you have a student, and you have to be careful to what you say, because this student has a phone, a smartphone, and he can look for the information and say, no, hey, you are not right. So we also should remember about thinking about training the customer. We have to be careful. We shouldn't give lessons to the customers, right? So we should explain what the customer wants to listen to, but we shouldn't give too much information, right? So we should be careful, right? In this book, sorry, David, there is a great sentence here that says, do you want a dinner with advertisement or not? This is a sentence that says that the sommelier knew that he was exceeding, right? He was talking way too much and giving too much information to the client. I am quite I criticize myself. I mean, we should be careful about how much wine they consume. The young clients, for example, you go to France and young people, 17 or 18 years old, they drink a couple of bottles of wine, but not here. They drink beer, but I think this is our fault, right? Because we are talking about flavors and technical stuff. So they of course they think this is so boring. I want just a beer, and they leave. So I think wine is so fun, and we are the professionals of this industry who should include these clients and stop giving too technique words, because we can make people to stop being interested in the wine. So talking about the customer to make it more blissful, and we can see some videos with Maya Cervera and other. Quique Peinado, for example, is a TV showman who gives some advice about the wine world, right? Manuela, David made some trajectory, right? Because some of you are older or younger. Yes, we are all young. How do you see the change in the restaurants during the last years? What is the evolution of the wine? I think this question goes with what you were talking before, right? Because I think there are many more professionals, because we cannot even doubt about how important is information. But I think there's another way to confront, to face the client. But I don't mean face, because I actually want to say the opposite. We have to try to make to try to get closer to the client, to have a dialogue, right? I'm not recommending a book, but we should listen more and talk less, because sometimes we are mistaken and we try to impose our taste on the client, over the client, because this is what I like, so I'm going to give you this. But it's not about that. It should be like a dialogue, right? We should be allies and with the clients, and we should be the person we should be the person that they can look for to give them advice, depending on how they are or what they want. And Alberto, I think that is the main topic, right? How have changed, because we are working now more with the kitchen, with the chefs, and there is a great synergy between the restaurant itself and the kitchen, because some people prefer the beverage, some others the food, but we shouldn't forget about the full experience, right? Because when a diner leaves, the diner is thinking about the general assessment of the experience. So we shouldn't forget about the important persons, because we are not the important part, the important persons, the persons who are standing. The important persons are the clients. So we should make them feel important, and we should give them a good service without having actually to give them all the time, giving them clues about how much we know and all the information we know. No, we should think about how we could get closer to the client. Remember that not everyone knows so much about wine. And I think this is one of the mistakes we make, because sometimes we worry about the experience of the client without even trying to get more information about their own taste or expectations. Or, for example, a person someday can spend a big amount of money, but some other day maybe he doesn't want to. So we should always know what's the budget of the person. So this exercise of listening, I think, is a very important part in this topic. We should try to surprise the client and do different things. For example, a practical example, I really like to do something when it's at dessert time. We give 2 wines, right? 2 glasses of wine, because one wine can pairs very well with one dish and not the other. So, for example, with this flan, we can give them 2 different wines, not only one. And this kind of game, right? This dialogue with the client is very important, and I think this is very important. This hearing actively is very important. But this is if you have the opportunity with the client. In the next conference, we're going to be with Silvia, and we usually talk about this a lot. And because he also lives in La Rioja like me, he has a great opportunity because when he goes to his restaurant, the experience starts with appetizer in the cellar, right? So you have a lot of references, and you can see in which way the client goes, right? He can prefer the international wine, or an American client who prefers the Rioja wine. So depending on the wine bottle he's taking, you can get more information about the taste of the client and how much money he's eager to spend. But how do you do that in your company, as in the gastronomy restaurant, where you don't have as many restaurants, and you just have 30 seconds of listening to the client? How do you do your magic? How the sommelier knows what the client wants? I think it's about experience. Sorry, I cannot listen well.
Sorry, but the connection is not good. We cannot understand the speakers. It's about making the right questions, the precise questions, and to make a good wine selection for guests, and so that they know how much, and also to know how much they can afford. So that means, in other words, it is good to listen to the customers, and also how much they afford. Let's stick to the time, and because we have so many people connected and we have many questions, we have to continue. But first, I would like to thank you, because I think it's important to rely on such diverse profiles. Just last question for all of you. Let's start with Manuela. What is the future for sommeliers at global, local, national level? Of course, it's going to be good and more important, because we can see how it evolved, And the formula is just to keep on working, and as long as we have those clients to take care of, we might have a different niche. And actually, I advocate, the differentiation trade, so that we can have those guests that is going to come to visit you. And we need to just go on to keep on the same track, and to get worried about or concerned about what we are offering to customers, and to have a close relation, work closely at the kitchen. For example, Lisa Negra Juan offered a different miniature miniature food, and it's ready for everybody. We start, especially, usually we begin with a glass of wine, depending on the product that goes with that miniature food. So perhaps people do not expect that, and that's a way for us to differentiate from others. We are sometimes telling them how important wine is for us, for our restaurant. Of course, if you want beer or something different, I can serve it to you. But this is a way for us to tell that drinking goes along with food in our restaurants. Do you see it the same way? Do you agree with that? Yes. In the end, all the drinking, are important, or the beverages are important, and we need to make our guests feeling well, feeling part of our experience, either with cooking or from the very beginning, where the actually customer grabs, the wine list. They need to feel the part of the restaurant experience. How the experience begins, it depends on the season of the year, right? I understand that restaurants such as yours and projects such as the one you are involved, and the future for sommelier, especially in Spain, is positive. Yes. Yes, I'm very optimistic and hopeful. Actually, right now, sommeliers are living a very good moment. Actually, we need more sommeliers, professional sommeliers for good restaurants in Spain, but at the same time, this obliged us to get a better training. Paula and Virginia actually are a good example because they are very well trained, but for all of us that are older, we need to be trained, we need to keep on learning and traveling, and I think it's good for our careers. That's something that we are all interested in. We have many questions, but this edition is not the first one. There will be more. Now we need to talk about the lack of professionals, sommelier professionals, salaries, wages. We have to talk about the different professional opportunities for sommeliers, such as work as a brand ambassador or sellers or buyers. I'm not going to continue with this, but first I would like to thank you for your effort, the effort you made this year, for your flexibility, the way you adapted to the different things from the hotel business and restaurant business. Thank you for allow us to go back to drink wine. Of course, for being here at this Somm Edition 1. Thank you, Manuela, Virginia, Paula, and David. Thank you for this initiative. Thank you very much. Thank you. All sommeliers are very interested in this type of discussions. So we need to thank you for this initiative, and thank you for actually gathering all these great professionals. Thank you. Our aim is to create a community. David, you were here a few years ago along with some sommeliers visiting our winery. We want to repeat the same activity, and if this profession allows us, is to invite you to harvest. Cheers, and it was a pleasure for us to be here. Silvia, Garcia, and Carlos, thank you.
Ferran, are we in time? Well, a little bit delayed, right? So now I'm leaving you with these two amazing professionals to talk about how to create a wine menu in a restaurant that I think is a very fascinating topic. I'm going to take notes. Thank you, Alberto. That was a great speak you had together, and I'm so happy to be here in this Somms edition that is working so well with a lot of ideas, and also my notebooks is full of notes and commentaries from our colleagues. So I'm so happy of this last speech, where we're going to talk about wine menus, how to create them, what's a successful menu, the functionality and the artistic aspects of the menus. There is another debate about being a long or short list, as the advantages and the disadvantages of each model. And also we have Silvia with us and Carlos Chapasto. Do they need a present introduction? I don't think so, but just in case, I'm going to introduce them. So welcome to this last speech. Hello, thank you very much. Hello, good afternoon. Silvia and Carlos, welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming to this first Somms edition. From two restaurants from different models, and they are ready to start talking about this. But let me firstly introduce you. Silvia Garcia, we know her because of her time in Kabuki Wellington, and then she was in Ugaritz, and now in this year in Madrid, or in the Ritz, in the Asian Madrid, and with these restaurants that are making us to listen to, and we have a lot of interest in to know more about this new trend and new opening. And Carlos Itzapresto is the manager and sommelier of Mocabillo, Venta Mocabillo. Without doubt, it is a reference restaurant in La Rioja in the wine selection and gastronomy and Rioja gastronomy, and also in innovation, right? That it can be found in another restaurant, right? So we want very peculiar wines. Since we have international clients who has a vintage wines, who want vintage wines, and they want complex wines and a different kind of menus.
So they come here to La Rioja to drink their own wines, and that is a hard work for us to find all those wines. Yes, I agree. That's such an effort, such a work. Or is it a hobby, or what is it, or a crazy thing? Well, when I talk with sommeliers that are working at restaurants, I'm very surprised because sometimes, they need to actually talk to the owner. They need to make some adjustments to the budget. So in our case, we were able to actually provide the wine as a unique single value. Many people come here to try the wine. And some people come here to try the food, but also there are others who come here also to drink wine. So if I have the chance now to buy La Rioja wine that is going to increase their rates, and right now they have awesome products, I should buy now in order to take advantage of the opportunity. So what I do, my brother, cares about the restaurant products. But in my case, what I do is I just take opportunities and I buy wines that are going to be more expensive. So, and it's not going to be good for my loss and profit account, sometimes to buy expensive wines, but it's what I do. I can see that you don't want to tell us your sources, which is great. No, it's a joke. Don't worry about it. The wine list, restaurants' wine lists, there are three different styles. One, the ones I want to have, the one I like, the one I identify myself, or with a spectacular or awesome places, because it's just a wine that I want to be. Other wines that are a must. They are must wines because they are prestigious, because they represent a variety or represent a region, or for whatever other reason. And then the wines, they need to be there even if you don't like it, because some customers like those wines, they like those wine profiles, so you need to look for those wines for those particular customers. So the way to look for those wines is to, first of all, to look into wines closer, because they're closeness, and then the distributors. Sometimes those distributors are more mean, because they wanted to buy the exclusive things, but they don't want to buy what you want. And then you need to actually make some research and go into the La Rioja culture, history, and you can find some wines from vets or people who are passionate about wine, and they can sell wines. Because if you're not passionate, you might be in trouble, because there's some value that you need to recognize. So some people, in the end, they just buy one of those bets. So you need to actually identify the high value La Rioja wines. I will ask about the proportion, the percentage of these different 3 wine models. Either if there are 50 expensive wines or 10 wines that you need to have, mass wines. Anyway, I will ask about the proportion later on. But first, I would like to ask Sylvia, because these 5 different spaces found at her hotel, they also have different wine lists. So I would like to know, how do you actually choose the wine list? And how do you actually make the decision on what wine should be left out, which one should be included? I suppose that because you are a sommelier team, many of you make decisions, which makes it harder, and you need to keep it updated. So I think we lost Sylvia. Sylvia, are you there? Yes, she's there. So when we work with many different people in a team, it's tougher. So how do you keep it up to date, the wine list and any other thing at the hotel? Wow, this is so difficult. Yes, I agree. Now, actually, currently, we are 7 sommeliers. 7 plus 1 that is coming, and another one that will come later. So it is difficult, it's complicated, I agree. It's complicated to actually keep an order, but we need to do so. We need to be aware of that. We actually prepare a monthly inventory little by little. So if we make daily transfers, we have a core central warehouse, a winery from which all the wines are supplied to the different restaurants. Each restaurant has their own wine stock. So they actually make the order and take the wines, take it to the restaurants. And all of that go to the main core winery. And this is the way it should be. We need a strict plan with every wine, every time. Otherwise, it will be madness. So, as I said, because we are a big sommelier team, a large sommelier team, and because they are professional sommeliers, that love their work, and they are aware of how important it is to do so, especially how important it is to be aware that where we are and that what we want to do. So it is easier because they are eager to do it, but again, we need a lot of organization, much organization, and this is something that is necessary for everybody. From the stock to the physical wine list, how do you do that? Well, it's the same actually. Weekly, I sent an email to every let's say universes that we have with the different changes regarding vintages, the incoming and outcoming products, and how the wine lists are at the moment. And if we need to order anything, is that wine lists need to be nice, but also need to be very interesting. They need to be printed anytime. So it needs to be up to date. So wine lists are nice, but also they can be printed every time. So there is we have no problem. It's just about paying attention to it and to be able to manage in the right way. So every point of sale is a self-regulated, self-control. How much time do you spend in managing that? A lot, yes, a lot of time. First, to receive the orders, to change the vintages, to organize the sellers. But of course, I rely on the support of my colleagues. I order every day. I make orders every day on a daily basis. But you should think that the amount of wines is huge here. You know, sometimes between 95 to 100 meals, and so the volume of wine, the amount of wine is huge, and we need to place orders every day, to be on alert every day. So it's like a clock, like a watch, you know, very complicated watch. So if one of the mechanisms of that watch, that clock fails, you know, everything goes wrong. So all the mechanisms need to be actually adapted, need to work properly. Otherwise, you know, something will be wrong. So this is very important. So in reality, little by little, we need to polish this to make that sense, so that we can find the sense. And it's complicated, because it is, of course, but it is worth it. You know, anything that is worth it, you know, is complicated. So you need to find solutions, right? You need to find solutions for this wine list that can be updated, effective, etc. Of course, that's very important. You know, you need to have an updated wine list that you can manage, that you can update. So the wine list needs to be a live product. You know, you need to manage yourself. So wine list, every wine list has their own thing. You know. So sometimes you need to make research, and you need to improve yourself sometimes. But with a strong team, with a strong communication, everything is possible, right? So in this sense, and now talking about wine lists, there are two different options: the long wine list, the short wine list. They might be more rotated. We prefer short wine lists, because, you know, they are easy for us to negotiate, bargain, because you don't need that much space, and you don't need so much, so much stuff. So long wine lists add value, as Carlos said, but of course you might face some problems, so cash problems. So you need to know how to purchase, so that the wine list can be revalorized. This is perhaps the most important thing in Venta Montalvillo. We found in Venta Montalvillo. How do you actually organize budgets? Do you sit around a table and just try to find, you know, the wines that you need to buy? And how do you do it with your brother, Carlos? How do you discuss about wine? How much wine did you buy? What is going on? What happens there? How do you manage? As I said, you know, we actually, for us, people make money with their work, and then they invest in other places. And that restaurant establishment will actually provide profits. But in our case, we believe our winery is our investment. And if in the future this establishment business go on, the value will be the winery. That will be actually translate into cash for the next generation. And in crises such as this, you know, I was able to sell wine in our restaurant. So for me, it's our savings. You know, we can sell money and save money and make money. And currently, I'm investing, because I think right now is the right opportunity for the restaurant. Our current philosophy is not to sell vintages in our restaurant. I mean, buying wines but not selling any wine. Actually, I bought some wines that are not for sale, and I will make them for sale, you know, in the future. I guess you are making different calculations, you know, these vintages, fine wines that you buy but you don't sell. I believe that right now there are some wines that are not drinkable 100% when they are launched in the market. So I buy those wines, those bottled wines, and in 3 years' time I sell them when they are drinkable. at the right price, of course, with the tax added. So to be able to sell a wine that is not the one, the type of wines are being drunk in other restaurants, you know, is a value added. Because sometimes, you know, people want to buy that wine that is special for this special occasion because you want to enjoy it. So yeah, you are generating some value with the wine list, and then you also are selling wines that actually do not have the current market value but revalorized. Are customers willing to pay for those wines? Yes, it's an education issue. Years ago, I wanted to grow because I was at a restaurant. I always avoid offering this wine, and anybody who approached me asked me about wines, you know, or tell me, you know, you shouldn't tell me. You don't have any idea because I know about wines. My brother-in-law, you know, is a wine expert. And here in La Rioja, you know, traditionally people drink wine from their friends' winery, their neighbors' winery, etc. So little by little, you know, with time, you are leaving your mark, and the people are being surprised by you, you know, and people are surprised by all their assortment, your inventory. They think that they don't need to go abroad to any other country to find those wines. So I'm not, you know, I'm not afraid of the volume or the amount of wine that I buy. However, you need to know what type of wine you are buying. Not all the vintage wines can be sold. You need to taste lots of wine. You need to try different wines. And in order to go forward, to make some progress, you need to follow up wines. For example, you drink a wine now, and in 3 years' time, you drink it again, because people are drinking only current new wines. And one of the similar problems is that they do not spend much money out of their pockets, because they only try or taste any wine the winery is offering to them. But not many people drinks those wines that are stored at their own wineries. So I believe we need to spend more money and to share those wine bottles and to listen to others' opinions. I can see the Wine Veritas girls agree with you, because you can tell by their faces they agree with you. So yeah, they agree with you. Sylvia, what is the percentage, the proportion of personal wine, your own personal wine, that you have, that you leave in your own wine list because you love them? Oh, are the clients willing to be recommended, or they just want to drink whatever they have in mind? I couldn't tell you, because of course you need to keep part of those wines that from you that go with you. But the reality is that when you are responsible to prepare a wine list, you should offer a wine list that is required by the business, beyond whatever you like. By chance, because you are a person that travel and is trained in wine culture, you know, sometimes, you know, wine meets your own needs, your own requirements. But mainly, when you prepare a wine list, I do not follow my taste, but the restaurant clients, customers' tastes. When I prepare a wine list, a first selection, what I do is to get together with another person, a sommelier that has 20 years experience, to talk about the with Mandarin Oriental, the sommelier Mandarin Oriental Hotel, and my knowledge, I share my knowledge with the people at Madrid, the staff in Madrid, and together we prepare this wine list. Not a wine list as such. I try to actually create a wine list that is necessary. From that list, wine list, I generate the different lists, wine lists for each restaurant. Restaurants that are not closed, because at the beginning, a number of wines are reflected, but they can grow, according to their restaurant's needs, because in the end, they are living universes that are unconquered. So we need to listen to them, to listen to their needs, 5 large spaces at their reach. So we don't know exactly, in which direction they will be heading for. So we need to know to listen. That is essential, to listen to the different universe and to follow their own direction. Apart from whatever you prefer, you like, you need to listen to their needs. That's the most important thing, It's not about listening to my own tastes, of course, that's good, but that should be included in the logic, Perhaps it sounds very romantic, but that's the way I think. So when it comes to select wines, you have the responsibility to choose the right one, as Teodoro, which is a good friend of mine. And one thing is your business, where you can do whatever you want, and another thing is the place that you work for, or the people you work for, company or whoever, it doesn't matter. So you need to actually leave aside your own tastes and to rely on your knowledge about the wine world in order to prepare the right wine list for each restaurant. Okay, good. That's a good reflection, a good work to prepare a wine list. This search, the need to listen to others, so that we can meet their needs. Because sometimes sommeliers, going to a restaurant and we're trying to force others to drink whatever we recommend, and so in this way this is actually the other way to do it. Thank you for such a great explanation. Carlos, what is the percentage, proportion, the wines that you offer based on your own tastes? 80% of wines rely or based on my tastes, because if I don't like the wines, these are not included in my wine list. Every collection, every fine wines that I buy are based on my own tastes. So that's the value of our wine list. That's why I like this debate discussion, because I can see the two different models, right? Many times when there is a sommelier in a restaurant, you can see that when the sommelier changes, is replaced, the new sommelier changes the wine list, because the former one is not actually fulfilling their tastes. So in my view, what I'm trying to actually argue is why the owner of the restaurant cannot be also the sommelier, at the same time. So that people think that people want to go there to drink wine because they want to meet the sommelier. Perhaps these are two different concepts, and perhaps my model is not inexpensive for a profit and loss account, but we are a passionate restaurant. Of course, this is La Rioja flagship restaurant, and it's a pride for everybody to visit you. So two different models, that are being reflected upon. Silvia Garcia, Carlos Echapresto, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your know-how. And we have been together we have been known for many years, so this is a good time for us to share knowledge, but not so much our secrets, but Señor Echapresto is actually planning to open, a different establishment, museum for the audience. Besides the restaurant, Silvia Garcia, Carlos Echapresto, two of the main, actually, most famous people in the sommelier world. Thank you so much for participating in this Somms edition and for your time and for sharing this. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure for me to share with you all of this, with your professionals. Thank you. I'm dying to see you. Bye.
It was a great speech. Thank you. Great. These were two great profiles and opinions from two very important key people, as Carlos and Raquel. Where we could observe different models and sommelier models that are very different, and it helps us in our profession since they are complementary, right? It was amazing to see how Sylvia was facing this new project, and I'm so happy to see Sylvia and Carlos, who is a neighbor of mine, and being so honest, right? He's an owner who says, I only put the wines I like in my own wine list. So we are running out of time. We're trying to be formal, but I think we are being quite delayed. So, as Voltaire used to say, the great success is not telling everything to people. So we're going to leave some topics for the next edition. So for now, I want to make a recap during the last 2 hours and a half, because we really try to tell what sommelier world is in nowadays, with Andy Meyer from the United States and Roberto Duran in London, Arnaud Chalier from the Maurice Islands. It's very lucky to be here, to be there. Marie-Paul from Hong Kong, and Roman from Moscow. We had this general world, and also we had a doctor in neuromarketing and how to apply this experience in science from Wang to compare the experience. And also talking about experience, we had great sommeliers in Spain as Manuela Romeralo, new generations as Virginia and Paula, and of course a great David Robledo, who were very honest to talk about what kind of experience they want to create in their own restaurants. And also with the last dialogue we had with Carlos Echapresto from La Rioja, being so amazingly honest, and with Silvia with a very delicate way to face this profession. And also we had a great conductor, that it was you. It was fabulous. Thank you so much for your effort and to accept the whole Majalahues team to make this Somms edition, to conduct it, since Ramón Bilbao Academy wanted to create something very unique together with the similar association, and with all the other brands, try to make this bigger and try to put the Spanish wine in a higher place to make it more visible and give more importance little by little. But also I wanted to thanks to the people who are always behind, and is the persons who are enabling to make this possible in this COVID era, from different words and different timing zones, and to all the technicians who were helping us, and to the producers and the translators. And I know I speak very fast, so I know I got them crazy, so thank you so much, and to all of you, and to more than 600 friends from the wine world who joined us in this speech. So Ferran, thank you so much. It was amazing to share these 2 hours and a half with you. I'm thirsty of more, and this bottle is almost empty. So let me cheer for this second edition of Somms edition, and thank you to all of you. I wait for you soon. The trip continues. Cheers! Thank you to everyone.